Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be covering r/ProRevenge, where OP gets their boss fired and OP has to deal with a psycho neighbor. How I ended up with my boss's job. I was working for an advertising agency, a pretty big one. I had an unethical manager. Well, when I started out, I had a manager who was one of the most unethical managers I've ever dealt with. He'd order his sales reps to do things that would increase his bonuses, which are based on margins. Example, say a client decided to buy product XYZ, and their spend was about $2,000 a month. He would want the agent to put up projects A, B, and C, and keep the spend at $2,000, even though the client did not agree to that. Fact is, the client generally wouldn't notice, but if they did, it would cost you your job. I was the guy that refused his demands. He would tell me to cheat the client, and I would refuse. He would get mad. I wouldn't care. This went on for quite a while. Now, this is something I don't tell people very often. I live in a one-party consent state, which means as long as I'm aware a conversation is being recorded, I can record it without informing the other party. I had just upsold my largest client, making him even larger. But I didn't sell the products my boss wanted me to sell. He demanded I switch things around. I refused. I told him I sold the client XYZ. That's what we agreed to. I'm not going to change that without the customer's permission. His exact words were, "Fuck the customer, this is your largest client. I need him on ABC or I'm not going to make my number." I'm sorry, but you and I both know ABC isn't right for this client, and that's why he didn't buy it. "You're fired if you can't follow instructions, you're fired." After confirming he was dead serious, I said, "If you do that, I'll have your job by the end of the month." I went home. I didn't think he'd go through with it. Sure as hell, next morning I'm locked out of all our systems. I call tech support and get told I've been fired. So who do I call? Ghostbusters! No, I'm kidding. I call a regional vice president and tell him I have several recordings I think he should listen to. Remember, my boss ordering me to do unethical things wasn't uncommon. So I met up with my RVP and played 6 different recordings that I had saved, showing my manager was pushing his agents to break the law. To which my RVP leaned back in his chair and let out a sigh knowing he had to fire my manager. Having a sales manager that is forcing his reps to break the law is just bad business. At which point, I asked for my job back. He agreed I would get my job back and asked me to take the week off and call him on Monday. He told me he'll talk to payroll and make sure I got paid for this week as well. FYI, he fulfilled all of his promises with me. Although I missed a payday, but got paid later, so I was fine with that. That Monday, I come into our Monday morning meeting, in which my RVP was there. He informed the entire team that my boss had been fired and why. He also mentioned that if anyone wanted to apply for his job there was now an opening. So I applied, and after 3 rounds of interview, I got my promotion. Sure as shit, I was right. I did have my boss's job by the end of the month. It was glorious the first day walking into his office and sitting in his nice, big, comfy chair. Try to bully me, new boss? This will be your shortest job ever. Back in the day, I worked as an independent IT consultant and was hired along with another independent to subcontract on a team for a major consulting house. We'll call it CH. Everyone else on the team was a CH employee. The 2 of us were not supposed to tell the client that we weren't a part of CH, but the client figured it out pretty fast. Because we are independents, we were doing most of the work, while CH's code monkeys were busy filling out spreadsheets all day and going on team building exercises, but I digress. The project ran past its initial deadline, and my contract expired. I stayed on a week-to-week basis, as a professional courtesy to get the project finished, because I liked the client, if not the team. Unfortunately, the CH project manager was booked somewhere else for his next gig, and they brought in a new guy to replace him. Let's call him David Stress. David flew in on a Monday morning to get the project handed off to him, and immediately started pissing on everything to mark his territory. He was belittling to the team and liked to raise his voice. I was working in my office, well actually a closet with folding tables that I shared with 3 other team members, and didn't hear what he was saying out in the main room, but I sure could hear his tone. And then he burst into the office and demanded, "How are we doing specific payroll-related conversion task?" I said, "We're using Program X." He waved his hand dismissively and scoffed. "That's stupid. Program X won't work for this. You need to do something else." The other indie was in the room at the time, and she saw me coming up out of my chair. She told me later she thought I was going to deck him. I knew he was full of shit because I wrote Program X. It was a custom code for this project, and he had no way of knowing what it would do or wouldn't do. He was just trying to bully me and be the alpha dog. I did not deck him. Instead, I went to the client's payroll manager, with whom I had been working closely for months, and who was driving the client's side of the project. I laid it on the line. I said, "Look, I know you know I don't work for CH. I'm here on an independent contract. That contract is up, and I've been working here week to week just to get you guys through." She told me she was aware of this. Okay, this new guy, David Stress, is a bully and a blowhard, and I won't work with him. I have a contract at this point, and with him running the project, I won't be back next week. I'm not asking you to do anything specific about it. I'm just letting you know as a courtesy, so you can plan to transition my work to someone else. She sat back in her chair, thought for a moment, and said, "Okay, thanks for letting me know." 2 hours later, David Stress was removed from his new position. The payroll manager, faced with losing one technical guy on the team who actually knew what was going on with the very complicated payroll system, called CH and said, "We don't want this new guy, take him away." CH rearranged some things to keep the original project manager with the project. The funniest part of this whole thing was that CH had scheduled a welcome dinner for David at a posh steakhouse that evening. Rather than create further embarrassment of canceling the dinner, they actually went ahead with it as a farewell dinner for David, who had been on the project for less than 1 day. It was fun to watch him try to put on a brave face for that. Yes, I did stay with the project to end after that. And yes, they went live successfully. Got a foreign exchange student sent home to her own country for relentlessly bullying my sister. My sister was bullied relentlessly in high school for something she literally had zero control over, a certain part of her anatomy. Without going into details, she felt terrible about it, and it more or less ruined her life as an insecure 15-year-old girl. The girl responsible for most of the cruel bullying, and the one who gave her a particularly cruel nickname related to her physical issue, was called Natala. Natala was a foreign exchange student at our school. Natala was beautiful, she was cruel, and she didn't give any fucks about anyone but herself. I won't miss popularity myself, but I had to protect my sister from having her life ruined, and I felt a very strong urge to get back at her tormentors. They say to kill a dragon with many heads, you got to cut off the main head, so that's what I did. I learned that the father of Natala was very conservative. Her whole family back home was. So I started spreading rumors about her being very promiscuous, and ensured these rumors reached the family she was staying with. This apparently caused her some trouble. But I wasn't done. I threw a party one night when my parents were gone. I invited Natala, who gladly came as I was a cooler, older girl. And she never got a chance to say no to getting hammered. Because yes, there was a lot of liquor. I made sure of that. Took pictures of everyone drinking and having fun. That same night when everyone left, I put it on my Facebook and tagged Natala on it. She had this option turned on where everything she is tagged in automatically shows up on her timeline. So a picture of her, shit-faced drunk and very skimpily dressed, made its way to her page. Because of it being in the middle of the night, she must have not noticed until the next day in the morning, so it stayed on for hours. But due to her parents' time zone being vastly different, I was sure they would see it before she had a chance to take it down. They did. I wasn't there to see the fallout, obviously, but she was gone the next week from school and flown back to her home country. Apparently her parents had to save her from being corrupted, or something. So she was gone, and my sister safe as word of my involvement spread. And let's just say people didn't really want to mess with her, after seeing how far I was willing to go to protect my little sister. I froze my psycho neighbor out of her apartment. In college, my 2 friends and I decided to find a place together off campus. We found a beautiful 3-bedroom house with surprisingly affordable rent. The basement of the house was listed as a separate apartment, but as it had a separate entrance and the indoor stairwell had been blocked off, we weren't worried. And the thermostat was upstairs. Then the Deemer neighbor moved in. From upstairs, we could hear everything. This adult woman would call her mother and scream at her to pay for her cell phone bills and give her grocery money, aka Taco Bell and cheap tequila. She would scream at whatever guy she was sleeping with to bring her meth. And one day, she brought home 3 puppies to scream at too. We were terrified of this woman, and the noise was hell. Also, we had been idiotic enough to sign a lease, stating that we were responsible for all utilities, period. Meaning we are financing her gas, water, and electric. But with only 2 months left on the lease, we thought we could just ride it out. But then she started smoking, constantly. According to the landlord, she quit for good when she signed the lease. But for good only lasted 2 days. Since it was winter, the heat was running nearly 24/7, and the smoke was wafting up from the vents. Our apartment and all our belongings began to reek with smoke. We contacted the landlord because we signed for a bloody non-smoking apartment. He told us we lived in a state where you could technically call an apartment non-smoking, even if it shared ventilation with a smoking apartment. Fuck you, leasing laws. At this point, my 2 roommates were heading out for a 2-week vacation. They were online students, while I wasn't, leaving me alone in the apartment with the demon smoker in the basement. I couldn't sleep or eat because my idiotic stomach decided to react to all the secondhand smoke by aching and cramping constantly. After 3 days, I was a little insane. I made a plan. I checked the forecast, low 20s all week. I borrowed a friend's ultra-insulated sleeping bag. I brought out one of those ski masks with holes for your eyes and mouth. I got out my stocking cap, my silk long underwear, my woolen socks, and my down parka. I bought tea, hot cocoa, ramen, and prepared to live off a diet of hot liquids. And I turned off the fucking heat. Day 1. She's screaming at her mother for forcing her to move into this frozen shithole of an apartment. Day 2. She's screaming at her boyfriend, meth dealer, because he won't let her move in with him. Day 3. She's screaming at the landlord about how she's fucking freezing. Day 4. The landlord is at my door. I greet him in full ski mask, parka, stocking cap array, looking like I'm heading out to rob Santa Claus at the North Pole. He asks me if I don't find it a little chilly in the house. I reply, I found all the cigarette smoke a little warm. Day 5. She's screaming about the bitches upstairs to anyone who will listen. I'm sitting upstairs, clutching my car keys and my pepper spray with 911 typed into my phone. She finally decides she's fucking leaving and moving in with Greg. Even though he just got out for stabbing Travis, and he lives in that fucking creepy house in the woods with all those asshole biting dogs. Day 6. She's gone. I silently bless Greg. Moral of the story. There's a bloody reason the rent seems too good to be true. Neighbor is an asshole, so I caused a potentially huge rift in his marriage. So this happened a couple weeks ago, but I saw the result of it earlier today. A bit of backstory. I live in a predominantly Mormon area, and I am not Mormon. I received quite a bit of criticism from my across the street neighbor because of the religious difference. I'm assuming we've never interacted before he started fucking with me. He currently has 10 children. About a month ago, on trash day, he told one of his kids to kick my trash can over into the street. The kid did it, and I witnessed everything. This is not the first time he's kicked my trash over, and I figured it was a lost cause to go over there and ask them for some decency more than I already have. That same day, I was reminded by a friend about how I used to have a pen pal when I was younger before I moved. Later that night, I was browsing the web looking for a pen pal when I stumbled across a cool sounding site, prisonpenpals.com. I visited the site, and after clicking through a few dodgy links, was brought to an array of different prisoners who were looking for a pen pal. After doing a bit of browsing from there, I stumbled across a fellow who was on death row for first-degree murder. Feeling bad for this guy, but not wanting to give my address out, you send an email, the guards print it out and give it to the prisoner, who then writes you a letter and delivers it to your physical address. I remembered the asshole across the street, more out of curiosity than malice. I proceeded to write a very detailed letter about how I'm a trapped, secretly gay Mormon man with 10 kids who was looking to start an affair with the prisoner. I put in his address and sent. I had my hilarious, petty satisfaction. I expected nothing to come out of this. I thought he would be going through his mail, see the letter, not open it, toss it, and think nothing of it after that. But boy, was I wrong. Of course, with it being a small town, this guy runs a small business. Here where one of my acquaintances work. I went in earlier today and chatted with my acquaintance before he told me, "Oh my god, did you hear about the neighbor?" I said no because I hadn't, and he filled me in on all of the details. Apparently, one of the neighbor's kids had brought in the mail, only for his wife to find it and read the letter from the prisoner, responding to the joke letter I wrote. I don't know the specifics of the letter, but I do know the wife threw a fucking fit when he arrived home and made him pack his bags. My acquaintance informed me this was not the first time the neighbor had started or tried to start an affair with another man, and apparently this was the last straw for her. I am still shocked, horrified, and extremely amused by this predicament. Pen pal sounds fun, but I have a feeling I would forget to write back, and then they would come looking for me like you never responded and I might die. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and also have a great day.